Good morning, Muscatine. This is the first time in I don't know how long that Chris hasn't made me laugh like right before we go live. So that's kind of nice not to feel like I'm like halfway in between something and, trying to keep a secret from you guys or something as we start the show. But it looks like it's actually going to be a gorgeous day. Get out there before the rain, get some vitamin D. Couple quick things before we get started. Quick update on the flood, just so everybody knows where everything's at. You're at about 22.2 feet, crested at about 22.3 yesterday-ish sometime. Flood level is 16, so we're still well above that. Major flood level is 20. And one thing that kind of goes with that is, don't forget there is a disaster proclamation out, so if you need any help from the flooding, you can contact Community Action of Eastern Iowa out at the mall. It's 563-324-3236, or head on out there because there is additional assistance available for flooding recovery, let's call it. Prevention, recovery, I don't know, all the stuff, right? So we've got about a week left of major flood level. Looks like probably next Wednesday, Thursday, it's going to be dropping down and all this stuff will be going away. So if you want to see the flood and you haven't, get down there now, but should only have about a week or so of it left. But one thing that we know isn't going to flood is the Art Center. It's up on the hill, right? Melanie, you guys are safe, right?
Yeah.
You're not worried.
If we're not safe, Muscatine's really in trouble.
we got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Well, and if you guys are getting water, that means my mom's house is probably like completely underwater. So yeah, probably not so swell. How you been?
Pretty good, yeah.
You guys are busy. We got this cool thing. Margaret got the story up yesterday, and this is so you can catch some more of this and some pictures and stuff on discovermuscatine.com. But you guys have your, is it fourth and fifth?
Yes,
fourth and fifth
grade
art exhibit going on now.
Yeah.
So can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, we've been doing this for, we brought it back a few years ago.
Right.
It was a thing for quite a while, and then we went into our building projects and some other things that happened in the exhibition schedule. So let's see, I'm trying to remember what year it was. Maybe 2017, 2018, we started working with the schools again. So we would do...
Let's see if Margaret tells us. Because this is important. No, she didn't mention it.
Yeah.
No.
So we worked with fourth and fifth grade one year, and then the next would be middle school, high school together. Mm-hmm. And it's been rotating like that for a while. So it's fantastic to work with the local teachers and to see what the kids are up to. And it's always such a bright, vibrant show. There's just fun artwork on the wall.
and that's up now, and it looks like you've got about 3 more weeks of that.
Right,
through like the
closes
21st.
on the 21st, yes.
So what does, Chris, do you have some of those pictures up for us? You can kind of see some of the stuff they've done. What were some of the ones that stood out for you? Like, do any of them
Yeah, there's, it's always fun to see kids doing animal drawings and artwork that involves animals. So there's several projects that are animal based in the exhibition. But St. Mary, St. Matthias, they included these little cogs and keys on in the artwork.
Okay.
So like they might have a little key for an eye or an ear or something. They're pretty fun.
Was there like a theme behind it, or just?
It was based on the artwork of, and I can't remember the name of the artist. I think it was a student artist who was making these. So the teacher took off on that idea, and
nice.
And the kids, got creative.
Nice. So then, obviously, when that closes, we've got some other stuff coming up. So June, you've got Birds and Art.
Yeah,
coming
Birds
in.
and Art is
coming. So what's that one going to be like?
Birds and Art is a traveling exhibition. This is, I think it's in its 48th year this year, so it's been around for a long time. But this is the Muscatine Art Center's first time hosting that exhibition. It's coming out of an art museum in Wisconsin, but they have been working with artists all over the world on this. So it's a juried show, and they have, you know, artists from all over the United States, artists from abroad who have, you know, entered their pieces into this competition, really.
Because that's what the juried contest means, right?
Right.
So could we take it? What is a juried? For those that don't know,
Yeah,
like, how does that work? It's kind of a neat little process.
Yeah, so they'll have, I think this particular one has 3 judges who review all the submissions and decide who gets included into the exhibition. So there was actually a larger exhibition up at it's a Woodson Museum in Wisconsin. There was a larger exhibition around that, you know, like a year ago. And then they selected, I think there's about 50 pieces that are traveling. So
Gotcha.
We're one of 3 locations in the United States that are hosting this exhibition. So it's coming to us. It's really, you know, all different types of birds. It could be, you know, owls and cockatoos, and you know, I'm trying to remember if there's like a flamingo. I've looked at all the entries, but some trying to remember which ones are actually coming to Muscatine and which were just part of the original exhibition. But there's some fantastic pieces. It's a little bit of everything. Metalwork, there's some stone sculptures, there's prints, there's watercolor, there's acrylic painting. It's a nice mix.
Well, and that's, you know, the thing, you know, I'm obviously not an art connoisseur per se, but the one thing that I do enjoy when you go to like a theme show like that, when it's what I would call like mixed media,
Yeah.
where there's like a little bit of everything, so that, you know, it's engaging a whole bunch of different things, you know,
Right.
and you see a bunch of different styles, and I always enjoy those more.
Right.
That's me. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
but-
And I mean, there's some of them are really on the serious side, and others are pretty whimsical too. So, you know, like there's some funny looking roosters in there, and I think I'm trying to remember if this one's coming, but somebody entered a dodo bird. You know, it's just it's surprising.
You know, you mentioned roosters, and 2 things come to mind that have absolutely nothing to do with your show. But for me, my grandmother always had the ceramic rooster, and then I think like everybody in my grandma's age had the same ceramic rooster. And then the other one was at Weikert's Appliance. For quite a while, they had this little refrigerator that had a rooster wrap on it, and it was like, maybe you could get some of the rooster art. We could turn it into a refrigerator wrap and replace it, because I'd have to look better than what was on there. But it was kind of a funny thing.
Yeah. The other part about it is because there are artists who are from all over, you see, you know, not just the Midwestern birds, but birds that, you know, we may not be familiar with because, you know, they're from Iceland or wherever.
Right.
You know, it's kind of interesting that
That's
way
kinda
too.
So how long will that be here?
That goes up on June 1st, and it's up through September 10th.
Gotcha. So you've got some time.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit of time with that. And, you know, I also just wanted to remind everybody that we have tons of programs that
That's
are
what
going
I was just
on.
going to
Yeah.
say. There's a ton of classes coming up. So what all is coming up?
So the thing coming up next is live reptiles that we're doing with Muscatine County Conservation. Okay. So Michelle Burns is going to be at the Muscatine Art Center. That's on May 6th from 10:30 to noon.
Okay.
And they're learning about reptiles and then making things about including reptile-inspired art.
I got to admit, that's not a combination I would have expected.
Oh yeah,
but
and we've been doing that for quite a few years. This partnership with the county conservation.
Cool.
Yeah. So you know the kids.
I'm just picturing like geckos flopping around in the, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they've been a fantastic partner to us. We've done quite a bit with them. Later on will be May 13th is another big day. We've got our student, it's the kind of ages 7 to 14, that age range. Our Kids Saturday Workshop, they're working on pieces inspired by Marisol Escobar, so they're sculptures.
Okay.
And then later that day, that's at the sculpture work is at 1:30. Later that same day on May 13th, from 3 to 4, or 4:30, they're making fairy gardens. So, and all these classes for kids are actually free of charge.
Awesome.
You just, some of them you do have to register in advance for, so.
And so that would be Mother's Day weekend for those.
Yeah.
So like that could be maybe a cool thing to do the Saturday before Mother's Day, like kind of a little family thing, not that parents will be there, but you know what I mean? Like
right.
a fun little thing to do to kind of help fill the weekend. So.
Yeah. Or, kids can make a fairy garden and gift it to mom or grandma.
There we go. Wyatt, look out, buddy. I know what you're doing.
We've got a free an open studio for kids. There's some drop-in projects they can do, and that's really low key. It's anytime between 1:30 and 3 on May 20th. This time around, I know they're going to be making tissue paper flowers
right.
for the Almost Fiesta going on the riverfront. So, and you can either donate whatever flowers you make or keep some, and it's kind of a mix. And there'll be some other projects. Katie does a fantastic job with those, and that you don't have to register for. It's really appropriate for kids, kind of ages 4 and up. So there's something for the little ones.
So when you say, are you talking about the glue and put it on the paper things?
These are actually like three-dimensional, like tissue paper flowers that get cut and sort of, I want to say, sort of shaped into.
Gotcha.
So
it's
they're
more
fluffy.
like three-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking, I saw Mary Alice yesterday, so I'm flashing back to my elementary art. I'm picturing the tissue, the glue, put it on the paper, and then that's what I was picturing.
No,
like sculpture.
Big sculpture type of flowers. Yep.
That sounds way more fun than what I was thinking.
Yeah, they're pretty fun, and they're slightly different than some of those tissue paper where you just alternate and then sort of fluff them up. We do have our mini masters classes, which are for younger kids, as young as 2. On up to maybe age 6 or 7. Mini Masters is on Wednesday mornings at 9:30 and Thursdays at 3:30. And we are asking for people to register in advance, but it is a free class. There's a theme. This month's theme is dinosaurs. So if you have a dinosaur lover in your household, bring them over to Mini Masters.
That's pretty much what every boy under 9.
Yeah. So it's we feature a different book every class, and then they make 2 different craft projects based on the story for that week. So, and then of course we've got adult classes too. So there's kind of a mix of things that are happening. May 11th in the evening, they're making a gold leaf bowl. And then they're doing some color pencil blending on May 25th in the evening. So, there's always just a mix of programming taking place.
Yep, and that's the nice thing. They've got a nice calendar on the Art Center website. You can hop in and you can always see what's going on. And the nice thing is, even if there isn't something going on, you can go hang out and just explore the Art Center, which is a nice random afternoon thing, right? So.
Yeah, and we've got the hands-on room upstairs in the historic house for kids to play in, and a lot of times after our mini masters class, we see the kids and their parents go up there, and they kind of have their own little social group that hang out, watch the kids play. There's of course, change is happening in the Japanese garden. So we have people walking by just to see what's going on. Right now, they did a big push a couple weeks ago, and it's been quiet for about 2 weeks. And now next week, it's going to be getting busy again.
I did go by and look at it after we talked. So what's the rough concept of what's going to happen next? Like,
Well,
what's it going to end up like?
yeah, so it's a rehabilitation project. The garden dates to 1930. We've done quite a bit of research into, going back to the historic photos and trying to figure out what was there originally and what didn't belong. So back in January, we had trees removed, so it's looked a little sort of barren out there. But it was really a garden that had a lot of sun, and it was, a rock garden, so the rocks were like a big feature of that garden. And over the years, just various things have been planted. Those big white pines, those were added in the 1980s. So we've been working with our consultant Heidi Homan from Iowa State University. She's in the she does historic landscape architecture. She's in their landscape architecture department. We've been working on this since 2020. So we did receive a federal grant to do it, and now we've been sort of going through all the paperwork and process to get through. It has to be approved through the National Park Service and the Iowa State Historic Preservation Office. So there's been a lot of, kind of work going on behind the scenes.
Right.
So next up, they pulled, like 2 weeks ago, they were in and they pulled out all the big stones.
Oh, right.
So they took those away. And if you've driven by, you see from Mulberry, when you drive by, you can see there's a whole bunch of stone that's just sort of sitting there.
Right.
That was actually pulled out of the garden. And then there's another huge pile down below. So they're pulling those out so that we can rebuild the whole thing. So next, we're going to be adding cheek walls to the stairs, which is what was there. So it's sort of like a finished edge along both sides of the stairway.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's 3 sets of stairs, so that's going to happen.
Yep. Okay.
And then they have to go in and investigate a little further into the waterway. There's several little ponds and a stream that goes through. Trying to make sure that it's watertight and flowing the way it should. They're going to put in a below ground kind of tankard, and then water will get pumped out of that, so we'll be able to keep that stream running and the water recirculating.
Right. So it becomes its own like closed system instead of just hoping there's enough water around.
Yeah. So it will eventually we'll be able to run that water system, in the nice weather months.
Right.
Frequently, maybe every day that we're open. So that we've been missing for quite a while, unless you've been out for a special event when we've turned the water on. That sort of sight and sound of the water running through the garden, which is a big feature in that garden. We've also sent our bronze cranes, the birds, out to a company called Art Castings, and they're making molds of our original sculptures, and they're going to be casting new ones for us. So the reproduced ones are going to go into the garden, and the original ones are going to continue to be maintained inside as part of our collection. So,
makes sense.
Yeah. Later, they'll be, working on the plantings. We already have a planting plan that's been approved through the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service. Originally, that garden had a bunch of sumac trees, which, a lot of people think of that as growing in ditches, but these can be very ornamental and beautiful, and that's what was there. Originally in 1930. So those are going to be added back in, and there's going to be a bigger diversity in the types of plantings that are in the garden than how it had been for many, actually a couple decades.
Well, I was going to say, as I think back, because we were there like every year for the ice cream socials and just like all that fun sort of stuff, and like as I really thought about it, a lot hadn't changed for quite a while, and like it was like it, as you say, it perfect time for a refresh, especially if the federal government's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we were fortunate in that we have worked with Professor Homan in 2020, and then I think, was it late in 2020 or early 21? We found out that Iowa was going to be among the states eligible for this historic preservation grant. And so we applied for that and received the funding, and then we have a local match through the Carver Charitable Trust.
Gotcha.
So yeah, we're very fortunate that our project was it was ready to go, except we needed some money. So the timing of that grant announcement, which was the first round of grants available to organizations in Iowa, it was pretty fantastic for us.
Well, and this is, we were actually kind of talking about this yesterday in a really, not that particular grant, but like how Muscatine does do a really good job in a bunch of different niches about getting like federal, like, so MPW was here yesterday talking about the expansion out onto 22 for the internet, all that stuff. And, that's state money that, they were kind of like you were basically kind of ready. Yeah. And then like, oh, hey, there's money, boom, go get it, boom. And then all of a sudden Muscatine gets something new and cool, right?
Right.
And that's, one thing that I think Muscatine, sometimes when you've lived here a long time or, you kind of forget how good Muscatine actually is at this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, like with you guys with this one, and there's just a whole bunch of those.
Yeah.
With the soccer, I mean, just you name it. There's so many of these things that, sometimes I think we take for granted.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, it all goes back to having a plan and thinking about these things, and taking those steps and being ready for when that opportunity does come your way. Yeah, if you're not ready, then you're not going to get the grant.
Right, and it's a vision thing, and I mean, I'm sure there's times where like, oh, this maybe, and I'm just going to totally make up something, but like if you have this vision of what you want the overall art center to be, or and if there's something that's like a little off, but there's money for it, maybe we make an adjustment and go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's one thing that I think, again, Muscatine's good at, and obviously you guys are as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the garden when it's done.
Yeah,
I think that'll be really cool.
I'm eager for them to really get in, and the one piece that maybe I don't have we don't quite have a good understanding of is just how much change is going to have to happen for the waterway. So that's the one piece that could cause issues, whether it's in the timeline or in the budget. We've got our firm, Aunt Rhodey's, and they seem pretty confident that it won't be a massive, undertaking to repair that stream. So I'm hoping so. Sometimes you don't know until you get in and start the work, but
especially with like water projects like that, where like you don't think that, maybe there's a little leak and then there's another one somewhere else, and, but if there weren't huge problems before, I would think you should be pretty
that's
good,
that's what we're hoping.
If not, just get some gum and
Oh, we need something a little bit more longer term than that. But
okay, super glue, whatever.
These are also the type of things that are going to take some maintenance too. So we get it as good as it can be for now, and then that's the other part, is that when we come out of this project, then we'll have a maintenance plan for the garden and the plantings, and it'll be somewhat phased because it'll take quite a few years for the garden to mature enough. So what we do in these first couple of years will be different from what we might do 5 years away, or 10 years, 20 years. So it's helpful to have a company that's going to provide us with that, so we know what to do with it. And I guess speaking of that sort of longer term maintenance, we are going to be working on forming a Friends of the Japanese Garden. So if there are people who are interested in gardening and want to...
Mary Wildermuth, go get all those master gardeners. I think we got a project for them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be involved somewhere along
the
line.
But they'll at least have the, some information to work off of what needs to be done. And hopefully we're trying to set aside some funds so that there's some money there every year. It may not be a lot of money, but to take care of some of the minor things that come up.
Right,
so.
And that's long-term planning. It's all great if you get something cool, but if you can't keep it, it's kind of pointless. So, it's nice to see that long-term planning in with it. So.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that being finished. And
do you have a rough idea of when it might be done? I mean, I know there's still a lot of variables.
Yeah. Well, right now the completion sort of deadline on the grant side is September 30th, and right now, unless anything, something major happens, we shouldn't have any issue meeting that. And I think our landscape firm is hoping that, by the end of July even.
Gotcha. So late summer, early fall.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when there's still plenty of daylight to go check it out.
Yeah.
Well, so we've got the 4th and 5th grade art show going on now through the 21st. After that, we've got the birds. That's here for a couple months, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
June 1st through September 10th.
Right. And then you just there's a laundry list of stuff going on there. Classes. Just go check out their calendar on the website. That's the easiest thing. Then you'll know exactly when it all is. But.
And there's always changing exhibitions up in the historic house too. So we'll have. Opening in June, an exhibition by an artist named Philip Labor, and his show is called House of Cards. So it's kind of an interesting one. There's, just a little bit of political stuff, but it's kind of a little commentary on the world we live in. And then we'll also have the Watercolor Society traveling exhibition opening in June too. So those will be more in the historic house. So there's always other things that are changing. We change exhibitions 20 to 25 times a year. So if you don't like what we have up now, look back. And
it's like the weather in Iowa, just wait a day or two and it'll be different.
Right.
There'll be something new at the art center.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what, my father-in-law, there was this joke for the longest time. Every time it would rain, he would go buy a new car. Maybe like every time it rains, you guys can like change exhibits.
It feels like that sometimes. There's always something new coming, and honestly, we work several years out. When we look at our schedule, we have a good idea what we're going to be putting up in 2025, 2026, and that's kind of normal. So we are always going back and forth in time.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes we're working on current day.
Yep.
It feels like maybe not often enough, and sometimes we have to do reporting, so we have to dig down into the past, and then we're always thinking, what are we going to be doing in 3 years? So
cool. Awesome. Well, Melanie, thanks for stopping in as always. It was a pleasure. Go check out what they're doing at the garden. It's fun to watch. Like I drive down Mulberry most days, heading to the office, and it's fun to just kind of watch what's changing, and it'll be exciting to see.
And it's fenced off now, so it's not, if you want to come by with your kids, they're not going to be running into a work zone.
I just meant more like driving down and seeing the change, like just the big overall, like there's stuff going on. Yeah. No, don't try and go walk through it. That would be bad. So thanks again for stopping in. Muscatine, we will see you tomorrow morning.